Wife told husband, "I'm cheating with your boss, and there's nothing you can do." What he did shock her. Imagine a man who spent his entire life building a secure future. He was an expert in financial planning and asset management, but he never managed to see the betrayal in his own home. At a party meant to celebrate his success, his wife delivers a blow that would destroy most people. She confesses her affair with the one man who controls his salary, his mortgage, and his entire retirement fund. She believed he was trapped, powerless, with no options left. But she made one critical mistake. She underestimated the quiet man. She had no idea what his real job was. His plan wasn't just to get even. It was to dismantle their entire world. What he did next, nobody saw coming. The dinner party at the downtown high-rise was supposed to be a celebration. David Harris, a modest man of 50, stood near the polished balcony doors, watching the city lights sparkle below. He had spent 20 years in financial planning and asset management, dedicating his life to building a stable future. Tonight, his boss, Marcus Thorne, a man who dripped charisma and cologne, was celebrating a merger. David had been the lead analyst on the deal, the quiet engine behind the firm's success. He looked for his wife, Sarah, to share the moment. He spotted her near the bar, looking radiant in a new red dress. Marcus was beside her, his hand resting casually on the small of her back. David felt a familiar, cold sting of insecurity, but he trusted his wife. He walked over, his smile genuine. "Sarah, they're about to give the toast." Sarah didn't look at him. She took a slow sip of her martini, her eyes fixed on Marcus. "David, can you just not?" she said, her voice sharp. Marcus smirked, watching the interaction with detached amusement. "Sarah, what's wrong?" David asked, his voice low. She finally turned to him, her face a mask of cold boredom. "What's wrong, David? Is this?" she said, her voice just loud enough for the investment partners nearby to pause their conversations. "I'm cheating on you. With Marcus. And honestly," she leaned in, her whisper like ice, "he controls your salary, our mortgage, and your entire retirement fund. There is absolutely nothing you can do about it." The music, the laughter, the entire room just stopped. The high-pitched clinking of glasses seemed to amplify the silence hanging between them. David didn't break. He didn't shatter. Instead, a strange, profound calm settled over him. He looked at Sarah, studying her face as if she were a stock portfolio that had just collapsed. He saw the defiant tilt of her chin, the cruel satisfaction in her eyes. Then he looked at Marcus. Marcus Thorne, his boss, just offered a condescending half-shrug, as if to say, "That's just business." The other investment partners nearby quickly looked away, pretending to be fascinated by the appetizers. "Well, David," Sarah pushed, her voice laced with mockery. "Nothing? I thought you'd at least beg." David adjusted his tie. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "You're right, Sarah. There's nothing I can do." He turned his gaze to Marcus. "Congratulations on the merger, Marcus. It's a significant acquisition." Marcus, thrown off by the lack of drama, simply nodded. Thanks, Harris. You did good work on the analytics." "I always do," David replied softly. He then checked his watch. "If you'll excuse me, I need to make a call to authorize an overnight transfer for a client. Client confidentiality. I'll just step onto the balcony." He walked away, not with the slump of a defeated man, but with the steady pace of an employee heading off to do a job. Sarah and Marcus stared at his back, their victory feeling strangely hollow and incomplete. The noise of the party faded the moment David slid the heavy glass door shut. The cool night air hit his face, a sharp contrast to the stuffy atmosphere inside. He didn't look at the skyline. He pulled out his simple, unassuming phone, not the sleek smartphone Marcus provided, but his personal one. He scrolled to a single contact marked Cleanup Crew. He pressed the call button. It rang once. "Go," a gravelly voice answered. "It's me." "Initiate Protocol 7, David said, his voice flat, devoid of all emotion. "Full asset liquidation. The targets are Marcus Thorne and Sarah Harris." There was a pause. "David, this is domestic. Are you sure?" He's been running a shadow ledger for the last 5 years, using the main firm as a cover. The merger was just a way to hide the losses. She, David paused, his throat tightening for just a second. Was his leverage? They compromised my position. This is no longer domestic. This is risk management. Copy that. Full liquidation, the voice replied. The forensic accountants will be deployed by morning. His offshore accounts will be frozen by 0800. What's your status? David looked back through the glass. He could see Sarah laughing, her hand on Marcus's chest. I'm still at the consultation phase. I'm about to go offer my congratulations. He ended the call, slipped the phone into his pocket, and smoothed his jacket. His breathing was even. His hands were steady. The financial planner was gone. The auditor had just clocked in. David slid the balcony door open, the warm hum of the party washing over him again. He saw Sarah and Marcus by the bar, laughing with a few junior investment partners. They looked like a power couple, golden and untouchable. As David approached, the partners nervously shuffled away, sensing the private drama. Sarah turned, her smile fading into a sneer. Oh, you're still here? I assumed you'd be running home to pack your bags. David picked up a bottle of sparkling water from the bar. Not just yet. I'm still on the clock. Marcus, feeling magnanimous in his victory, draped an arm over Sarah's shoulders and leaned in toward David. Listen, Harris. No hard feelings. It's just natural selection. Business. You understand. I'll tell you what, he said, pulling out a platinum credit card to signal the bartender. Don't bother coming in tomorrow. I'll have HR process a generous severance package for you. A little golden parachute for your retirement. David met his boss's gaze. The calm in David's eyes was deeply unsettling. A severance package? That's very generous, Marcus. But are you sure the firm's liquidity can handle that kind of payout right now? With the new acquisition and all? The overheads must be astronomical. Sarah scoffed. He's trying to sound smart. David, you managed client accounts. You didn't run the company. I, on the other hand, she said, running her hand down Marcus's arm, am about to manage a much more high-value asset. Yes, the asset, David said, nodding slowly. It's always important to know exactly what an asset is worth and what it costs to maintain, isn't it? Marcus narrowed his eyes. The comment about liquidity pricked at a genuine, hidden nerve. He'd been leveraging the firm's assets heavily to finance the merger, counting on a quick return. My firm's financials are rock solid, Harris. You should know, you ran the analytics, Marcus said, his voice losing its breezy confidence. I ran the analytics you gave me, Marcus, David replied evenly, taking a small sip of his water. But due diligence is a funny thing. It never really stops. For instance, those offshore accounts you've been using to diversify your personal portfolio. The tax implications alone. Well, they require very careful management. The color drained from Marcus's face. Sarah saw it instantly. Her mocking smile faltered. What offshore accounts? David, what are you talking about? You're just a glorified insurance salesman. Am I? David turned his full attention to his wife. You've been married to me for 25 years, Sarah. You saw me go to work every day. You saw me balance ledgers and file tax returns. Did you ever once wonder who I filed those returns for? He let the question hang in the air. I've handled asset protection for people you've only read about in finance magazines. Marcus, he said, turning back, was just a side project. A particularly sloppy one. You're lying, Sarah whispered, but the certainty was gone. You're trying to scare us. I'm not, David said. I'm just giving you a financial forecast. And right now, he checked his watch again. The market is about to turn. Drastically. You might want to liquidate your assets, Sarah. Oh, wait. You can't. They're not in your name, are they? The mortgage, the credit cards, the investment accounts. They're all tied to Marcus's portfolio. A portfolio that is currently under federal audit. A federal audit? The words hit the air with the force of a physical blow. Sarah stumbled back, grabbing the bar for support. Audit? David, that's insane. You can't just order an audit. Oh, I didn't, David said calmly. I just filed the reports. I've been filing them for 2 years. My department isn't financial planning, Marcus. My title is Senior Risk Analyst for the Federal Depository Insurance Corporation. The real one. Your firm has been my special project ever since you started using client funds to cover your market losses. Marcus's face turned a dangerous shade of purple. He grabbed David's shirt. You work for me, you little. Do I? David didn't even flinch. Your payroll checks are just a consulting fee. The SEC, the IRS, they've been building a case file that's about 1,000 pages thick. Your merger was a desperate attempt to cook the books, to hide the insolvency. But you're over-leveraged, Marcus. And you. He looked at Sarah, his eyes now filled with a cold pity. Tied your entire financial future to a sinking ship. You signed a post-nuptial agreement last year, didn't you? Giving up all claims to my pension and assets in exchange for access to his credit lines? I have the file. You diversified yourself into poverty. Sarah's breath hitched, the realization dawning. She hadn't just cheated. She had liquidated her entire life. No, Sarah whispered, shaking her head. The red dress that had seemed so powerful moments ago now looked like a desperate costume. The postnup, that was for tax purposes. Marcus said it was for asset protection. It was, David agreed. His assets, not yours. You signed away your spousal support, your alimony, and your stake in our property. All for him. Marcus let go of David's shirt, his hands trembling. He was no longer the alpha, the boss. He was just a man in an expensive suit, staring at the auditor who held the keys to his life. The merger is clean, Marcus stammered, trying to find his footing. The investors are solid. The analytics were positive. The analytics were based on fraudulent documents. Marcus. The investors you secured? They were undercover agents from the SEC and the FBI. They've been recording your consultations for 6 months. Your golden parachute just deployed, David said. He looked at his watch. And right on time. Look, David pointed to the elevator. 2 uniformed police officers and 2 men in dark suits stepped out, walking calmly toward the bar. The music stopped. The investment partners froze. Marcus Thorne, one of the suits said, his voice cutting through the room. You need to come with us. Sarah looked from the agents to Marcus, then to David. Her world had completely evaporated. David, she pleaded, you can't let them do this. The mortgage, our home. It's not our home, Sarah. It's an asset of the firm, tied to Marcus's fraudulent loans. It's being seized tomorrow morning. David calmly placed his empty water bottle on the bar. Good night, everyone. The clink of the handcuffs fastening around Marcus's wrists was the only sound in the opulent room. You can't do this. Marcus blustered, his voice high and thin. I have the best attorneys in the city. This is a misunderstanding. You can make your calls from the federal building, Mr. Thorne, the lead agent said, guiding him firmly toward the elevator. The party guests, the high-value clients and investment partners, backed away, their faces a mixture of shock and fear. They were all silently calculating their own financial exposure to his firm. Sarah just stood there, shaking. Then, as the elevator doors closed on Marcus, her legs gave out. She didn't fall, but she clung to the bar, her knuckles white. David, please. David, you have to stop this. Her voice was a desperate rasp. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. What about my accounts? My car? The credit cards? David looked at her one last time. The woman he had loved was gone, replaced by this stranger. Your credit cards were company accounts, Sarah. They were frozen 20 minutes ago, along with every asset tied to Thorne Enterprises. The car is leased by the firm. It will be seized by morning. You have no accounts. You have no home. You signed it all away. But what am I supposed to do? She cried, tears cutting through her expensive makeup. Where will I invest? David took his house key from his pocket and placed it on the bar. That's my key to that property. The locks will be changed by noon tomorrow. You should find an attorney, though I'm not sure how you'll finance one. He turned and walked away, leaving her alone in the crowd. David didn't wait for the elevator. He took the fire stairs, his footsteps the only sound. He walked out of the building's grand lobby, past the valet stand, and into the cool city night. He didn't look back. He felt strangely light, as if a bad investment he'd been carrying for decades had finally been written off. The loss was staggering, but the relief was absolute. 25 years of marriage evaporated. His entire domestic portfolio gone. But the rot was finally cut out. He walked 2 blocks to a quiet side street where his modest, reliable sedan was parked. It wasn't a luxury car. It was a practical asset, fully paid off. He got in, sat for a moment in the silence, and then pulled out his personal phone. He didn't call the cleanup crew. He dialed a different number. It rang twice. "Hi, Dad. Is it over?" A young woman's voice answered, full of anxiety. David's stern auditor facade melted away, and for the first time that night, his voice was warm. "It's over, sweetheart. How's your study going?" "Who cares about calculus?" she said, relief flooding her voice. "Are you okay? Is she?" "I'm fine, Chloe." Marcus was detained by federal agents. "Your mother, she made some poor financial decisions. She chose her path," David said softly. "She chose him," Chloe said, her voice hard. "Dad, come home. I saved you a plate. Your retirement starts tomorrow, right?" "Yes," David said, a small smile touching his lips as he started the engine. "Yes, it does. My assets are all secure. I'm on my way." He was finally liquidating his toxic assets and reinvesting in what truly mattered. An hour later, David's sedan pulled into the driveway of a modest, clean bungalow in a quiet suburban neighborhood. This was his true safe deposit box, a property he had secured in an irrevocable trust for his daughter years ago. The mortgage was paid in full. When he walked in, the smell of a simple home-cooked meal replaced the scent of expensive perfume and cigars. His daughter, Chloe, a bright-eyed 22-year-old financial analyst in training, was waiting at the kitchen table. She jumped up and hugged him, a hug so tight it nearly cracked a rib. "You're okay," she breathed, her voice thick with relief. "I'm okay, sweetheart." They sat at the simple oak table, a plate of warm food in front of him. "She really did it, didn't she?" Chloe asked quietly. "She signed the post-nup and everything." David nodded, taking a bite. "She thought my pension was a low-yield bond. She didn't realize my Real retirement fund wasn't with the firm. It was federal. She was so busy leveraging her assets for Marcus, she liquidated her own security. She never bothered to read the fine print. She never really saw you, Dad. She just saw a provider," Chloe said. David looked at his daughter. Her college tuition was fully paid, her future secure. Marcus and Sarah spent their lives chasing high-risk investments. Ego, luxury, status. Their portfolios were built on fraud. "I only ever focused on one blue-chip investment," he said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "The only asset that's guaranteed to grow." "So," Chloe smiled, "what's the first agenda for your retirement?" David leaned back, a true, light smile finally reaching his eyes. "Well, I was thinking it's time for a long-term investment in some downtime. How does that vacation to the coast sound? It's time to reinvest in our futures." For the first time in 25 years, David Harris felt completely and totally solvent.